Da-da-da-dum. Da-dee-da-da. Hello. Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da. Yes, my book arrived for the Alice's Wonderland block sewing group. 100 blocks in all of these different styles, arranged to start out with the simplest blocks and increase in skill level as you go along. Perfect book, perfect, I guess it's block of the week. I thought it was block of the month, but there's 100 blocks here, and we're doing a few blocks a month, so it's going to be more like, I'm basically going to just try to do a block every day until I get up to the harder ones. I might take a little longer on those. But the first one is the Amish bar. Very simple block, just strips. And then the second one is going to be this, very similar, but arranged in a cross called rail fence. So in the instructions, they say to sew the 3 strips together and then cut to end up with this block. But I didn't want my seams to have loose ends, you know, to come apart, because this being the first block, it's going to be bopping around for a while I sew all the others. And I'm a kitchen table quilter. I sew everything by hand. I'm doing this whole quilt by hand. I might be the only one doing this. But it's because I've been doing the slow stitching stuff, you know, the meditation stitching. And what I basically like to do is I like to cook things that require a lot of simmering and watching, particularly during this cold weather. It's nice to have something simmering away on the stove. And so I sit at the kitchen table and I do my hand sewing and I tend to whatever's on the stove. I like to make my own cheese, and I'm moving into making candies. I'm not supposed to be doing that, but hey, you can make caramel with the leftover whey after making the cheese. And also with the buttermilk, I make my own butter. But anyway, this is quilting, not cooking. I do both. And I was watching a lot of Japanese videos, which is what really got me going with the hand stitching. And so they do a lot more hand sewing than Westerners do. So I am on the final assembly of my first block. And the other thing the Japanese don't do, which I thought was interesting and I like it, they don't use knots. Basically, they just anchor the seam by running a couple of stitches back and one forward. Now the seam is anchored. Now in this case, though, I'm going to finish with a top stitching on my hand-done blocks. I like to do a back stitch that leaves a very tiny little line of stitches. You see? Can't really see it too well, but you can see it on the flowery cloth, that little line of white stitches. And that's the strongest seam, actually, for hand sewing. The very strongest seam you can sew is a seam of back stitches. Just go underneath, come up, step back, underneath, up, and back. And I think it lends a certain amount of elegance to the finished block, as well as really reinforcing the strength. So, here we go. There. A little itty bitty iron. I really need a heavier iron. I do have one. I just have to set up an ironing board and use it. Anyway, this is the first block of the Alice's Wonderland quilt. Now, they say this is 6 inches, but this looks bigger than 6 inches to me. Yeah, I'm getting 7 inches out of it. I guess maybe some of my strips were a little bit more generously cut, but that's okay. It's the first block, so if I make them all approximately 7 inches wide, it's going to be sashed too, and you can cheat when you're using sashing between the blocks. I might end up doing that. But that's the first one. And here are the strips for the block I'll do tomorrow. Yeah. They're all there. There. Alice's Wonderland quilt. Thank you for showing up. Please don't forget to subscribe, share, hit the like button, and do all that good stuff. Denise Matteau, over and out.